자, 설날 연휴 첫날 6시 아침 독서를 시작하는데 먼저 어제 뉴욕타임즈가 아직 안 올랐는데 대충 한번 뉴욕타임즈를 한번 보시겠습니다. 오피니언 어제 날짜입니다. Anti-natalism and the roots of a demographic crisis. From overpopulation fears to careful voyages, life the script. The hope was that extremely low birth rate in countries like Italy or South Korea might be part of a transition through economic demand and the traditional expectation for women. That hope seems to be dissolving. Last week, the Financial Times featured an interview with the Finnish demographer Anna, discussing one of the more striking subplot in the widening drama of demographic decline, the sudden collapse of what had heretofore been seen as a pro-natalist success story in the social democracies of Northern Europe. Up until recently, countries like Finland, Sweden, and Norway had notably higher fertility rates than many countries in Southern Europe, and the Nordic socio-economic model, with its mixture of gender egalitarianism and a strong welfare state support for child rearing, was often held up as proof that progressive policies could prop up birth rate. Even that feminism is the new natalism. The hope was that extremely low birth rate in more conservative countries like Italy, or for that matter South Korea, might be part of a transition through an unworkable mixture of modern economic demand and the traditional expectation for women. With Scandinavia showing that a more progressive, feminist, and family-friendly destination was waiting on the other side. That hope seems to be dissolving, as Darrell Paul wrote in an essay for Compact magazine last week. Europe had suffered a stunning fertility collapse in the last decade, much of it concentrated in countries where the feminist egalitarian model was the strongest. Finland is one of them. As the Financial Times note, despite all the support offered to two parents, the country's birth rate has fallen nearly a third since 2010, and this birth rate is now barely above the lows of Italy. I've been writing about the pro-family policy for basically my entire career, and I've always assumed that America could learn something from the European experience. Not that the Nordic model in particular is necessarily ideal, but at least that policy can shape the fertility decision and work against anti-natal trends. And I still think that I am very happy, for instance, that the U.S. House of Representatives just passed a child tax credit expansion because in an age of declining birth rate, every little bit helps. But it's always been clear that pro-natalist legislation is expensive and works primarily on the margin. That the right to the policy might gain you from 1.5 children per couple up to 1.7, or from 1.1 to 1.3, an outcome that's both very much worth aiming for, but also potentially swamped by larger trends. And watching the tide go out on European fertility, the emphasis is that Lord Koch uppers is essential both for pro-natalist conservatives and for progressives who have convinced themselves that any birth rate issue is just the fault of libertarians who won't spend enough on families. Whatever is going on in countries like Finland, she said, is not primarily driven by economics or family policies. It's something cultural, psychological, biological, cognitive. So let's talk for a moment about the cultural and the psychological aspect, the role of people thinking about the world in their fertility decision, and let's save certain big issue, sacralization, the role of the internet, the alienation of the sexes for another time, and focus on two specific forms of anti-natalist culture. Consider first the extended post from a demography-focused account on X, making the case that contemporary attitudes are more explicitly anti-natal than many people recognize, that the too many humans worldview of figures like Paul, the author of the Population Bomb, infused modern society in a profound and under-indexed way. In this theory, people aren't having kids because of the power of an ideology that says there are too many people and they are wrecking the planet, which has encouraged a great many young people to simply believing having children is bad. I do think the shadow of E and the 1970s attempts to brutally suppress the developing world population growth hangs over current fertility trends, especially in China, where the legacy of the one-child policy still seems powerful years after its official abandonment. But as an overarching explanation for our situation, I'm a little doubtful of overt anti-natalism's power. It's notable that the evidence marshaled by the Post also for its potency start with the anti-natalism evident in online reader comments on articles in major newspapers. That tracks with my sense that once prophecies of doom failed to materialize, his worldview became a kind of submerged ideology, the sort that you see in, well, comment to the thread, present below the surface of liberal society, influential with many older liberals who imbibed it in the 1970s, but a bit too embarrassingly out of date and even racist, seeming to be a full part of official progressive ideology.